Again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo is, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach Sunday nights on Facebook Live. And thanks for joining us. We want to remind everybody to please share our page with your friends, share our videos with your friends. We have a new interview that we'd hope that you would check out with Teresa Bonapartis, talking about post-abortive healing for women. It was a great interview. It's on our page right now. And over the next week, we'll be posting an interview that we did with Father Dwight Longenecker that we're very proud of, and we think you'll enjoy. Also, remember to subscribe to HolyFaith Media over on YouTube. There's not only our content, but a lot of great content on there, and also the Crusade channel. Now we have a weekly gig on the Crusade channel on Monday nights from, I believe it's 5 to 8. All right, it's a 3-hour show.
Actually, that's New Orleans time. It's 6 to 9 New York time.
6 to 9 Eastern time. And remember, it's a subscriber-based channel, but it's definitely worth it. And right now, he's offering 30-day free subscription. Yeah. All right, trial subscription. And as we always say, if somebody's willing to let you use their product before you buy it, then that means that they have confidence in what they're bringing to you. So we would encourage you to do that because there's a lot of great content on there. You got Mike Church. Now you have the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Rick Barrett has a great show. You also have Rules for Retrogrades, Tim Gordon and his brother Dave, who are lighting it up out there and in the culture war just as we are. And so a lot of great things going on. Raising the consciousness of America by proclaiming the truth and boldly stating it without any fear, because that's what we have to do if we're going to take this culture back from all the nutbags out there. And speaking of nutbags, I'm going to hand it over to Joe Resinello, not because he is one, but he, even though we both are, but he's going to get into a few atrocities that we discovered over the course of the last week. Real quick shout out, Arvin. Thanks for joining us, brother. PM, hey. As he likes to say, Joe Romano joining us, Vinny over in Hoboken, and my babies out there. So thanks all for hanging with us. Like we said, share our page, like our page, share it with your friends.
We're gonna begin with the enlightened statement of the week, and it comes to us from England. This is very progressive, Joe. So.
Well, England, enlightened, progressive. Very progressive. Okay.
So hold on to your seats. A British politician has claimed on national television that children are born without sex. Interesting. Dawn Butler, a Labour Party MP and the Shadow Secretary of State for Women and Equalities, made a comment yesterday on the popular morning TV show Good Morning Britain while discussing transgender issues. This is what Dawn Butler went on to say in the interview. Talking about penises and vaginas doesn't help the conversation because what we're saying then is trans women aren't women by your definition. Moments later in the interview, Malady, the host of Good Morning Britain, said, look, when a child is born, they are identified and observed in a particular way. Butler replied, a child is born without sex. A child is formed without sex in the beginning. Cuckoo! Cuckoo!
Can anyone say lunatic?
That's insane. By the way, a well-known Good Morning Britain host, Piers Morgan, he appears on a lot of liberal news media outlets.
And be clear, Piers Morgan himself
is a liberal.
He's a liberal. He supports a lot of this, but go ahead.
Who says he supports transgender rights, responded to the interview on Twitter by simply posting the word insane. These people are not in touch with reality.
They really aren't. You know how Monty Python back in the day, they used to do spoofs and everything else and satirical skits. So they got a movie called Meaning of Life. All right, did you ever see Meaning of Life back in the day? I always thought it was one of the funniest movies I ever saw. In hindsight, I'm a little bit more Catholic now. So, but anyway, it was funny. But in the opening scene, it was the meaning of life, birth, right? And the woman who just gives birth, and they got all these people around, and she goes, "Is it a boy or a girl?" They said, "What? Is it a boy or a girl?" Well, I think it's a bit, or at least I'm imposing roles on it now, and that's satire. We just saw that this is what some people are actually saying. And it's too early to look at as my mother would say, the little boy's ting-a-ling, okay, and the little girl's vagina, and say, well, that's a boy and that's a girl.
And here's the thing. This is, what's it called? She's the deputy leader of the Labour Party in England.
So the Labour Party in England has
like the
is Democratic
Party
Party here, okay? So do you really think that somebody who's worried about workers' rights in England, okay, who might be a member of the Labour Party, really goes for this nonsense? Let's say the rank and file people. The same way we talk about rank and file Democrats, let's say in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Ohio, in Michigan. Ring a bell? What do they all have in common? They all went for Donald Trump in 2016 because they're rejecting this insanity.
And by the way, the Labour Party got crushed in England. And it's going to be a foreshadowing of what happens here.
And what's more hopeful...
And I'm not the only person saying that, by the way.
Right. And what's more hopeful is that a lot of it has to do with the social issues. It doesn't just have to do with immigration. See, the liberal media in England tries to keep it with immigration so they could call all those people racist. You supported Brexit because you're racist, okay? They have to try to keep it there. No. These people are rebelling against this. Labor got drugged because of women like this, who's a high-ranking member in the Labor Party saying, well, we don't really know if it's a boy or a girl at birth. Are you insane? Is there something wrong? Do you look in the mirror? Do you actually listen to what it is that you say? Because I don't know if you do.
No, it's just, like I said, that's just so crazy. And, it's not just in England. We cover these things week after week on this show. The things that people are actually saying. And, people could say, oh, you two are radical. No, we're not. I'm telling you common sense things. I always say we have a PhD in common sense, and common sense isn't too common. A boy is a boy, and a girl is a girl.
Right.
You go to the bathroom in the boys' room if you're a boy, and if you're a girl, you go in the girls' room.
And this is what Joe just said. Nowadays, is considered a radical idea.
By the way, in public schools, they disagree with me.
Right.
Across the United States.
And everybody has got to step up to this. And this is one of those cases where Joe and I say we would love to evangelize, and we want to evangelize people. We want to bring people into the Catholic Church. Okay, I think part of our evangelization efforts is to help people to raise their consciousness. And yes, where there's overlap with people of other faiths, PM's joining us. I know PM is a Muslim. Okay, I respect him tremendously. He's a dear friend of mine. Okay, he's a Muslim. He agrees with us on this. Okay, he's a Muslim. We can join together because at this point in human history, we have a common enemy, and they are represented by this insane Labor Party deputy commissioner, commissar, comrade, whatever you want to call her, okay? Because they're trying to tell us if you identify boys and girls by their anatomy, there's something wrong with you. And that's when I just sit there like this, just kind of speechless. And it gets to the point where you don't know what to say because in the face, when somebody made a logical argument, but PM just commented, he said, I'm rendered speechless. Okay, this is PM's comment. I'm rendered speechless and have the inability to comment appropriately, logically, and whatever. I just don't know what to say. Exactly. Because if you just state a reasonable position was, well, penis means boy, vagina means girl, then somehow, some way, they're going to ship you off to the gulag. And given Bernie Sanders any kind of real power, and that party any kind of real power, that's exactly where you'll go. And it won't matter if you're Muslim, an Orthodox Jew, a Catholic, an evangelical, a Protestant, anybody. If you disagree with this agenda, your head's in the chopping block. I don't care if you're an atheist. That doesn't protect you. If you say as an atheist, yeah, but I believe in biology, so a boy's a boy and a girl's a girl, they'll ship them off too. Nobody with common sense and any sort of rationality is safe from this agenda unless we all come together and step up and fight against it. Joe, this is scary.
No, I agree.
And Piers Morgan, like I said, he supports whatever you would call transgender rights. But even he's got limits. And he'll say, now, wait a minute. You're taking this way too far. I think just even, let's say promoting any of this nonsense is taking it way too far. But even him, he says, you're taking this too far. And he says, basically, you're insane. And Suzanne's joining us. Hey, Suzanne, Labor Party is off the rails, just like the Democratic Party here. That's why they lost a month ago and got destroyed in their election. And that's why Donald Trump is going to trounce anybody here, including Mini Mike, Bernie Sanders, Pocahontas, Buttigieg, any one of them. He's going to take them to the cleaners. Take them to, because people are tired of this. It's not just about the economy, stupid. Remember in the 90s, Carville said, it's about the economy? No, it's not just about the economy. If you tell me my 5-year-old's going to go to school and they're going to learn this nonsense, okay, and this is what's going to be promoted to my child without me knowing, without parental consent, because they're trying to do that, didn't they do that in England?
Sure.
All right, they did that in England too. So now you have, last week we talked about a Muslim father who's willing to go to jail because he doesn't want this taught to his child. And this week we were talking, I don't know if we're going to get into it tonight, but the yeshivas in England are being forced to have to adopt an LGBTQRSTV curriculum in math, science, and whatever else.
In a
People are
private school.
In a private school.
And they're not standing for it.
Right, and they're not
As we
standing for it.
shouldn't either.
Right, absolutely should not.
We're going to go to Johns Hopkins. Now, I'm going to give you a little study. Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins is like an Ivy League school. It's a very good school. They just released a study at the Bloomberg School of Public Health declaring, get this, gentlemen and ladies, there is no evidence assault weapon bans lead to a lower incident of fatal mass shootings. This is Johns Hopkins. According to Johns Hopkins studies, researchers stated that they did not find an independent association between assault weapon bans and the incidence of fatal mass shootings. Now, here's the irony. This is the Bloomberg School of Public Health. Guess who bought that school?
Mini Mike.
Michael Bloomberg.
Mini Mike.
This is the man who made he has a crusade against guns. This is the irony. Michael Bloomberg was an engineering graduate of Johns Hopkins. He's an electrical engineer from Johns Hopkins, and he donated money to his alma mater, and they purchased this school, and they released this particular study. Mm-hmm. Now that's ironic.
Yes, it is.
That is ironic.
And you know, Bloomberg is going to be all in favor of his bodyguards having guns. You know, guns are okay when it comes to his own personal protection, but it's not okay when it comes to protecting you, others, and members of your family. Okay. Now, Joe and I don't own guns. Okay, it's just something I hope to never have to own in my life. Okay, but this country is getting very, very bad. All right, the people will attack you for just like I said, just holding a common sense position on something.
Boys and girls are girls.
Right, a biological position, not a religious one, a biological position. But you don't understand science. No, yes, we do, because I can see the penis or I can see the vagina, so I can see either one, and I know how to identify boys and girls. But these people are crazy. They'll come into your house. What did Ben Shapiro say a couple months ago? He got in trouble for it too. He said, if you come into my house and you try to force this on my child, I'm gonna have to shoot you. That's what he said. Got a lot of trouble for that. Got a lot of pushback for that. But you want to know something? You want to destroy my child's life, and I am not supposed to protect my child from you? Is that the argument you're making? Or I'm the bad guy? When you want to I'll come into your home. If you want to warp your child, if you want to destroy your child, okay, I hate to say it, I pray that you don't, but I'm not knocking down your door. Stop thinking that you can knock down ours. And that's the truth. These people need to be pushed back.
But also regarding guns, like Joe said, Joe and I do not own guns. I don't see a need for it, to be truthful with you, at least where I live. You know, I have police. I have an alarm on my house. If I called the police, they'd be in my house in 2 minutes. So I don't need a gun. You know, in all honesty, maybe some people feel they do, and I'm not going to make a judgment either way. It's not my business. I could speak for myself. I do not have a gun. I will say this. We've always had guns in this country. Why is it now there's so much violence? Ask yourself that. There's always been guns in America since it started. Why is it now? I'll tell you two things, in my opinion. And I am not an NRA contributor. I don't have a gun. I am not political. This is just my opinion. One, we have broken homes, many more than we did in the past, and kids are wounded, more kids than ever before. And that comes from a broken home. People who come from broken homes have wounds. It manifests itself differently in each kid, but they are wounded people when mommy and daddy are no longer together. That is what a family is. It's a mother and a father raising children. There are wounds and people are acting out. That's number one. Number two, we have a lot of mental illness. I also think that comes from the family being broken.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, and this is the denominator behind it all, we've thrown God out of our society. We have thrown God out of our society. Guns do not kill people. People kill people. Do you know in France, I read something this week that it's like 120 stabbings take place like a week.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, like a day. They don't have guns, but people are stabbing each other.
Because they got rid of God too.
Bingo.
They got rid of God too.
And if you don't have a gun, you could run people over.
How are these people that cry all the time, Joe Resinello? How are these people complaining or wondering? Let's just put it like that. Wondering about why we have so much violence. They blame the guns, okay? Which, like Joe said, we've had guns from the beginning. We were never as violent a society as we are right now, okay? And all these incidents that occur now. Because you've told kids, you, and when I say you, I mean you lefties, okay? You've told kids there's no moral boundaries. You think because you confine it to the sexual arena that they're not going to take the no boundaries in that arena, excuse me, and translate it into other parts of their life. So if there's no moral boundaries, listen, you're the people that say it's just A-okay to kill children in the womb, and then you expect other people to respect human life, and you're shocked when they don't? You brought that on our society. It wasn't us.
And also, like, when you have a belief in God, there's an, like, whatever, like, religion, whether you're a Protestant, a Catholic, there's an underlying idea of right and wrong. I can't do this.
Right.
I'm not going to go into a place and shoot it up.
Right.
Also, there's a belief in if I do, I can go to hell.
Mm.
How's that? I mean, I won't go to heaven.
Right.
That's an underlying thing we all could agree upon as religious people.
Right.
Like doctrines we could argue about, but there's some common themes. Kids don't understand right and wrong anymore.
Right. And
men don't understand right and wrong anymore.
Right. You want, again, Joe, it comes back to the same hypocrisy. They expect people to act morally.
That's a bad word.
AKA, don't walk into a place and shoot people, but you teach those same people that human life in the womb means nothing. That's what you do. And then you don't even think to question your own positions and say, maybe I'm kind of wrong about that. Because, if you could kill a baby in the womb, you could kill anybody, as far as I'm concerned, as far as we're concerned. And that's the truth. And PM's chiming in. We got Vinny. Suzanne Maureen's joining us. Hi, Maureen. Who else we have, Joe, that's joining us? Eddie joined in. Hey, Eddie. And Sandra's with us also. Sandra Garza-Reyes. And you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. And we're in the breach on Facebook Live. What else was going on there?
Well, Obama had to get in the mix this week.
Oh, there's a shock.
By the way, he did promise he wouldn't say anything about the Trump presidency, but of course he has to.
He can't help himself.
He can't help himself.
Right.
This was his quote in Twitter. 11 years ago today, near the bottom of the worst recession in generations, I signed the Recovery Act, paving the way for more than a decade of economic growth and the longest streak of job creation in American history. And then in the tweet, he shows a picture of his $787 billion stimulus package. Wake up.
Garbage. Lies.
Wake up.
Okay? That was a big payoff to all your union buddies. You think we're all so stupid that we don't know that? You borrowed $1 trillion and you went and gave it to all your union pals? And you thought that that's what created this economy? You're the guy who said new normal. You're the guy who said don't expect any more than 1.5% of growth. You said that. You said those jobs in the Midwest, in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. You said those jobs weren't coming back. Guess what? It's like the line from the movie. They're back. But it had nothing to do with you.
Well, Donald Trump, of course, couldn't let that one fly. So
let's hear what Orange Man had to say about that. Of course, he'll be racist for going back against the Messiah, Barack Obama. Go ahead.
He said, did you hear the latest con job? President Obama is now trying to take credit for the economic boom taking place under the Trump administration. He had the weakest recovery since the Great Depression, despite zero Fed rate and massive quantitative easing, now best job numbers ever. Had to rebuild our military, which was totally depleted, Fed rate up, taxes and regulations way down. If Dems won in 2016, the U.S. would be in big economic depression and military trouble right now. The best is yet to come. Keep America great. Let me just break this down.
Please do. Please do.
I work at a bank. I'm going to tell you exactly why the economy is doing better under Donald Trump versus Barack Obama. In two things, but one in particular. We were in the top 3 in the whole world with corporate taxation. It was close to 35%. You do not have to stay in America. If I have a big business, an international business, all I need is 3 lawyers in 1 month and I can incorporate somewhere else and take jobs. You don't force people to stay in business in your country. If you tax me at 35% and Ireland says I'll give you a 21% tax rate.
Go in Ireland.
I need 3 lawyers in 30 days. I'll just incorporate out of Dublin and leave. Barack, and here's another reality. Whether you work at Target or you work at Goldman Sachs, when the government taxes the living daylights out of a company, the top people don't get pay cuts.
They always get paid.
They fire you.
Right.
They don't hire. That's whether you're working at McDonald's or you're an investment banker. It's reality.
That's right.
It's the way it works. Instead of having 6 cashiers open at McDonald's,
Got 2.
and the lines are longer.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they pass the taxation on to you. So a government that operates properly has to find the correct balance between taxation and and basically funding like taxing the company and funding its own programs. You have to find the balance. Barack Obama did not have that balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's why unemployment is so low now, because it gave companies room to grow.
Right.
That's number one. Secondly, regulation. He over-regulated. Now, I'm a regulator. That's what I do for a living. I'm fully aware that you have to regulate companies. I do it for a living. I've done
Reasonable regulation.
Correct.
Reasonable.
I do it for 21 years. Over-regulation, heavily taxed companies equals no jobs, equals no raises, equals companies leaving America.
That means, Obama, that this has nothing to do with you. Everything you did was designed to destroy the middle class in this country, and you can't stand the fact. See, James Carville turned around one time and said, they all can't stand and deal with that Louisiana dog he's got. They all can't stand. They're getting their ass whipped. They're getting their ass whipped by the Harvard professor. What the Harvard professor can't grasp is that we know, as working people in America, people who wake up every day and go to work and put food on the table, that your goal as a leftist, because that's what you are a committed leftist, was to destroy the middle class in this country. Because your vision of the world is elites and everybody else. Of course, you and your family are going to be in the elites. And Joe and my family, we're going to be at the bottom. See, you can't stand the fact that we know that about you. We know that that's what you tried to do. You went out there, I'm going to repeat it. You tried to convince people that the jobs would never come back. What's this wand that Donald Trump's going to raise to bring the jobs back? It's called tariffs. It's called lowering the corporate tax rate, like Joe said, and incentivizing corporations to stay right here. And if they do go overseas, we're going to hit them with a tariff. So they're going to bring those jobs back here. But you chased them away. Ergo, you don't get credit for the recovery. Donald Trump brought them back. Ergo, he does get credit for the recovery. And you, Harvard law professor or Harvard professor, you can't stand it. You can't also stand that we know that about you. You also can't stand you and your jerk-off party Okay, because that's what you all are, a bunch of jerk-offs. And I know Father Lewis is going to get mad at me for saying that, but my anger meter's at its height right now. You all don't get it. You can't stand the fact that we know what you're up to. And you're not winning Michigan. You're not winning Pennsylvania. You're not winning Ohio. You're not winning Wisconsin.
And shame
right?
on you if you vote for people
right.
who do that.
If you're a middle-class
Shame
union
on
guy
you.
and you go and vote for them, I'm not saying the Republicans are the bee's knees, because they're not. But Donald Trump is on your side. And Donald Trump will get legislation through the Republican House and Senate that will benefit you. At the very least, could you recognize Donald Trump is on your side? White, black, Latino, it doesn't matter. If he's creating jobs, he's not saying, I'm just creating jobs for white people. I'm just creating jobs for straight people. He's creating jobs for everybody. Okay? So you need all to get that. You need to get that through your head. He's on your side. They are not. They will return to the policies of Obama, and you will be out of a job. And if Bernie Sanders has his way, God forbid that guy gets elected. You union people in Nevada, how you voted for Bernie Sanders, because Nevada has that's why they vote Democrat. All right, in the casinos. How are you voting for Bernie Sanders? He's going to take away your health care.
It's so sad. It's
sad. It's right. Why would you vote for a guy who's going to take you out of your good health care plan and put you into a government system which is going to decide whether or not you get health care?
Me and my wife were talking about this. You know what it is? People have just given up. They want someone to take care of them, and they think the government is going to do that.
Okay, then we can't let them. Then we have to, even though they're our fellow citizens, we have to say, no.
I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth.
Far from it,
I want at least a fighting chance.
Right.
I've scrapped and clawed for everything I have. Everything I've had.
And they want to take everything away from you.
But you know what it is? People are not willing to do that anymore. They just think that the government is going to be mommy and daddy, and somehow they're going to take care of you. That is the biggest farce. Let me explain something to you. Don't believe me if you don't want. Look at history. Socialism doesn't work.
Abject failure.
It doesn't work.
And no, it's not because
and
the
it's
right
not because I'm saying it. There has to be some social net, but socialism as a practice doesn't work.
Do you know what people get in this country, Joe? What people do get, and I've come around on this too, I do believe in a social safety net. I do. I don't want to use it the way the left has and the way they promoted it for years to create a cycle of dependency. That's not the same thing. A certain social safety net below which you won't fall, which gives you, as an American, the ability to make sure that you have a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and food in your belly, so that you can get back up and rebuild your life. I'm all for that. I wasn't always, okay? I bought into the conservative Republican line 20 years ago. No, welfare is just going to be abused. No, if it's targeted, it could be effective, and it would definitely help people. I'm for that. I have family members, all right? And members of my wife's family who say flat out that food stamps at one point in their life, help them. God bless you, okay? I would be for that. Not when it's abused, but when there is a need, you could do it. Government can do some things, okay? But if you think, and none of these people, by the way, have relied on it. None of the people that I've known in my life have ever relied on it. It was useful. It helped. They got back on their feet. They moved forward, okay? So we agree with that, but that is not socialism, and that's not what the Democratic Party represents right now. Democratic Party represents right now, no matter how moderate they try to sound, and Bloomberg can spin all the nonsense he wants, okay? This is a party that, number one, doesn't want Mike Bloomberg. They don't want him. They obviously want Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders wants the state ownership of the means of production. Could we all get that through our head? There is no difference.
He actually says it clearly.
Right.
Too.
At least respect his honesty.
I do. And he's a true believer in what he stands for.
Right.
I give him that. He's not. Who's not is Joe Biden. Who's not, is Mayor Pete. Who's not is Elizabeth Warren. They're liars and deceivers. Bernie Sanders isn't.
Tells you straight up. That's what makes him dangerous, though, because he tells you straight up.
I can't believe one American is for him. Socialism takes away, what's it called? Innovation. When do you hear of the companies like Apple, Microsoft, come out of different countries? All the innovation in the world comes out of America because of our system.
Right.
It allows elbow room for small businesses to grow. Socialism, it's like putting honey in a hose. It doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. And the rich people stay rich forever. And what the poor people do is they throw you 4 crumbs and they say, sit in the corner and enjoy your 4 crumbs.
Right.
Because that's all you're getting, and you're never climbing out of that corner. And that's why I say we've given up. Right. We've just become soft and fat.
You know what helps in that? You know what assisted in that or promoting that attitude of having given up and becoming complacent, and losing your sense of reason when it comes to all this. I know we harp on it, but it's true. The sexual liberation. In other words, in this country, the pornography, okay, the easy sex, that contraceptive mentality that's permeated our society. If Bernie Sanders turned around and said, listen, you'll be a slave to the state. You'll have to work a couple hours a day. You're going to have to be somewhat productive. When we decide your time is up because you get a little bit older, you're going to die. But in the meantime, I'm going to provide you with all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll you want. In other words, you're going to make the best of your meager existence, but you'll have a grand time doing it. And don't worry about hell, because that doesn't exist, because God doesn't exist. And even if he does, it doesn't send you to hell. You'll give me your power, and I'll make sure that you're able to wake up every day, get laid, get high, and get drunk. And as long as you do that, as long as you vote for me, I'll make sure we keep those things in place. So you'll be able to bang
your children.
Abort your children. You can bang anybody you want. Doesn't matter. You can get it. We're going to provide all the drugs you want. They're already doing it now. So I'm not being a conspiracy theorist. They're seeking to legalize marijuana in all 50 states. It's not going to stop there. I hope everybody understands. Drug legalization is not going to stop with marijuana. And those are the crumbs that Joe's talking about. They'll just give you the things that they've convinced you will make you happy. All right? You can derive as much pleasure in those things as you can.
Watch your porn.
And then drop dead.
Abort your children.
Right. Get high.
And then when you're old and you need medical care, they'll say, sorry,
you're not productive anymore.
We're giving it to the young person. You're 76 years old. The actuary says you're only going to live 3 more years. Have a good day.
Yeah, so go drop dead.
Go home.
All right, and what they say that that people should be fearful of guys like us, who we want people to act with responsibility, okay, and to take accountability for their responsibility for their own lives, their own decisions, everything that they've done. Understand? Hey, look, I work in the hospitality industry. That's not where I wanted to be at 52 years old. But you know what I do when I look in the mirror? I say that's a result of my own decisions. I don't blame anybody else. I make the best of my situation. I rely on God to move me forward, and he has absolutely done so. That's why we are threats to the establishment. Republican establishment, too. A lot of crazies over there, too. Okay, they like all this nonsense. They think we're all a bunch of sheep anyway also. Not all of them. They're mostly on the left, but there's some on the right. We have to resist this. We have to raise our consciousness. I told you before, they're starting a movement in this country to ban pornography. I am going to join that fight, protest everywhere I can, join any rally I can. In other words, to end that and say that it's not protecting speech under the First Amendment, because the oligarchs, the Bernie Sanders, and everybody on that side, everybody who was on that stage the other night, pornography is a big weapon for them. It makes you that complacent person that Joe was talking about. When Joe says people have given up, you want to know why? Because they want to go like this, Joe. They want to sit. They want to rub their fat bellies that they've just stuffed with all the food that the government gives them, all that cheap crap food. In other words, they drink their Johnny Walker Black, smoke all the pot they want. Where's the remote? Because now I got porn right there on the TV. That's giving up. That's giving up. Okay?
No one owes us anything. And I got news for you. The beauty of this country was that you come here and you scrape and you sacrifice and you claw and you climb. My family did it. My grandfather came here at 16. He didn't speak English. He worked in a factory. All his children bought houses. That happens nowhere. You vote for Bernie Sanders, that's gone.
Oh, he wants to build new projects.
He wants to build projects.
Right.
You see, by the way, Bernie is not going to live in that project. You see, I can't believe that we have fallen for this foolish concept. It's proven that it doesn't work because we're lazy. We're lazy, and we don't want to sacrifice a damn thing.
Right. Right. That's exactly right.
Know why I have a house? I lived home for 10 years and saved money. That's why I have a house.
That's right.
That was a sacrifice. That was a sacrifice. Know why I have a job? I went to get 2 master's degrees at night while I worked full time. And I paid for them, one of which on my credit card. And I paid it off as I went, as I worked. My parents didn't give me anything. They just let me live in my house. That's a sacrifice. Nothing is acquired in America without a sacrifice.
Well,
there it is.
But that's a naughty word.
Guess what? Then go live on the government for crumbs. It's so sad.
But here's the thing: if we have our say, those people look. I grew up with it. People asking for money on the street. How many times I heard somebody say, "Go get a job"? Now, it used to be in my heart. I know a lot of people need help. Okay, and I'm going to give a buck or two or food if I have it to somebody who you obviously look at and you say, "This person is broken." In other words, the least I could do is buy them a sandwich. I'm in favor of that. Okay. Now that's as a Christian. Okay. I say I can tell. I could use my eyes to see somebody is obviously in really bad shape. Some dude walks up wearing better boots than everything I'm wearing. Asks me for $1. Yeah, I'm now like the prior generation. Go get a job, man. Not giving you $1. Not giving you $2. Are you crazy? And this is what we have in there. That is a Bernie supporter right there. Because Bernie's going to give him a job. Or Bernie's going to let him do whatever he wants. You got Andrew Yang dropped out of the race, wanted to give people $1,000 a month. That's insane. Basic income. Dan said something real good. Dan said, Bernie has never created a job for anyone. He just wants to control a government which steals our property and dignity. I like that, Dan. And dignity. That's what we're talking about with the whole selling of all the sexual revolution and all that kind of stuff, because that destroys your dignity. And of course he's going to steal your property. You know the best moment, by the way, the other day on the at the debate? I don't want to really give Mike Bloomberg credit for anything, but Bloomberg is the one who said, you got the only guy here. He's a self-identified socialist. He owns 3 houses. He says, wait a minute. He got Vinny, did you see him the other night? He goes, wait a minute. I wrote a book. Who cares? All right, who cares? He goes, I own 3 houses because I live in Washington. Bloomberg goes, that's your first mistake.
That'll be a soundbite.
That was the only time I ever was on Bloomberg's side because I thought it was because he went right back and burned it. You have 3 houses and you're calling yourself a socialist.
And he'll keep them.
All right, no, he ain't giving those up.
He'll keep them.
He ain't giving those up.
You see, this is wake up, people. And here's the thing: the road isn't easy. No one came here. Give me you're tired, you're poor. You could do it. You can do it. It's not easy.
You hit the nail on the head earlier in the conversation, okay? We've said it before. We'll say it 1,000,000 times as long as people want to listen to us. The reason why our grandparents, not just us, all of our grandparents were able to come here with large families, not small families, not 1.2 children and 1.4 cars in the garage and all that nonsense, okay? Large families, 5, 6, 7 kids, Irish, Italian, black people in America always had big families, okay? The reason why they were able to make it because they believed in God. They lived their life according to God's laws, not these godless socialists. That's the difference. People don't want to hear that, but that's the bona fide truth, okay? We've thrown God over, and this is what we get. You have a guy, a 78-year-old socialist, who believes in the state ownership of the means of production, that babies could be killed right up to the day that they're born, okay? And all sorts of other depraved ideas. Very close to becoming president of the United States.
That is pathetic. I'm embarrassed.
You can say what you want about Donald Trump.
He should not have 1 vote.
Yeah. Well, Kyle Jurek.
Any person who's thinking. Pathetic.
That's right. That's right. Catherine Chu just joined Barbara. Barbara Farley from Wisconsin. Hello from Wisconsin. Hello from North Jersey, Barbara.
Barbara, we have a story for you. I found this just for you.
Let me
say it next.
Let me give a quick shout out. So we have Suzanne. Eddie said, Bernie has openly praised Cuba, Venezuela, and the former Soviet Union. Freedom and prosperity mean nothing to him. Couldn't have said it better myself, Eddie. Couldn't have said it better myself. So where are we headed next? Barbara, we got a Wisconsin story.
We're going to Madison, Wisconsin.
We're going to Wisconsin.
Parents are suing the Madison Metropolitan School District for enabling children to socially transition to a member of the opposite sex at school without parental notice or consent. Teachers are directed to deceive parents by using the child's birth name and biological sex whenever parents are involved. The lawsuit claims that the school district is violating parental rights by adopting a policy designed to circumnavigate parental involvement in a pivotal decision affecting their child's health and future. The policy enables children of any age to socially transition to a different gender identity at school without parental notice or consent, requires all teachers to enable this transition, and then prohibits teachers from communicating with parents about this potential life-altering choice. This is in America. 20 years ago, if a teacher did this, you'd go to prison.
Well, this law is trying to prevent that.
No, this law is basically saying that they're going to aid the child in transitioning and not require parental consent.
Oh, so they're actually considering this in Wisconsin?
Parents are suing the school.
Oh, no, okay, that's what
yes.
Right, so the school's doing it.
Correct.
And the parents are suing. Okay.
No. This is basically parents are suing the school because the school's doing it.
Right,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was confused there. Sorry, guys. I get confused
human.
at the front line with Joe and Joe
It's
sometimes.
all good.
I'm old. I'm 52. Bernie Sanders, if I needed something from his healthcare plan, he would tell me, go home and die.
But
you're 52.
But here's another twist to it. It said the school district also directs its teachers and staff to deceive parents by reverting to the child's birth name and corresponding pronouns whenever the child's parents are nearby.
You see their shadiness, Joe?
This is a violation of the parents' fundamental and constitutional right to direct the upbringing of their children. This is in America.
Right.
Madison, Wisconsin, by the way, is a very affluent community. This is in America.
Right.
I can't believe that you would put your vote down for garbage like this.
Well, obviously, the state here is trying to impose something, but God bless the parents for turning around saying, well, no, okay. This is what we talk about people standing up, okay? And Barbara, if there's a rally up there, I swear I'm going to try to come to it. If you want to rally at the State House, all right, I'm going to get on a plane, okay, and I'm going to come to the rally. I'm going to try my damnedest to do it. You want to know what? We have to start supporting parents, okay? You got to grab groups like the Alliance Defending Freedom, the American Center for Law and Justice, the St. Thomas More Society, for all their ACLUs and SPLCs. We have lawyers on our side, too. And you know what the left can't stand? Thank you, Jesus Christ. We have Trump judges. We have Trump judges now. So now when the case is brought, you don't have some ACLU judge or some SPLC judge. Now you got a Trump judge who was on that list that made Donald Trump public enemy #1 for the left, because we have 190 judges in place. You know who they're going to side with in all this? They're going to side with the parents, especially given the shadiness of the state. They tell the teachers, don't refer to the child or refer to the child by their biological name or sex in front of the parents. But then when the parents are gone, do what you want. No, I'm sorry. These people deserve a punch in the face.
They should be in jail.
No, they deserve yes, but they deserve a punch in the face before they go to jail. I'm telling you, Joe, I told you this before, and I'll tell you again. I told my wife, I mean it seriously. My wife and I are about to adopt children. Okay, when my kids go to school, if the teachers does this, I told my wife, make sure you got 5-10 G's on the side for when those kids start going to school, because when you do, you're gonna need it for bail money for me, because I'm walking into the school, not to the teacher, I'm going right up to the administrator, and I'm knocking them the F out. I'm knocking them the F out. Do it again, and I'm gonna come here with 100 men, and we're gonna beat the living piss out of you. You're going to destroy my child? You're going to try to deceive me and my wife? In other words, you're going to refer to my child by their biological sex when they're around me, and you're going to go behind my back? No, lawsuits sometimes don't work, even though they can, and let's hope this one does. A good punch in the face is what works once in a while. I know Father Lewis is going to get mad at me for saying that, but you're not for nothing. Sometimes you got to put people in place, and teachers and administrators in the public school unions, we got to start pushing back. And if it means throwing a couple of punches, then I think we should do it. I know that somebody's going to say we're inciting violence. To me, you're inciting violence again. You're perpetrating violence on my child.
I don't understand how people in their right mind can support this. It just goes to show you the tribalism, how people compartmentalize things. There's certain issues that you're disqualified for. You're simply disqualified. 20 years ago, you would be put in jail. I went to public grammar school. If a principal or a teacher was to even suggest that, they would lose their job, and they should. I can't believe that this is the deal. And we've let it happen. And you know something? It's not done, because Donald Trump isn't going to be the president forever. I do think he's going to get elected. But all these people on the Democratic Party, I got news for you. Every single one of them is for this nonsense. Every single one of them. Don't kid yourself. I don't know how we've come to this point. Why do? We've thrown God out. We live in a godless society. Democracy doesn't work with amoral people. It doesn't work. Our founders said that, and they were right.
They were right.
And here we are. Here we are.
There should be no need for conversations like this. Joe, you and I should just sit around. We should always just be talking around our kitchen table, talking about things that, like, this is the reason why we're here. This is the reason why all you good people are listening and spreading the word. Not us. There's nothing particularly special about us. We got big mouths. We're Italian. We're from North Jersey. We're somewhat entertaining, I think. Okay, but there should be no need for us. There's all this stuff should be just basically common sense. Okay, yeah. If you had 100 men show up at the school board and say absolutely not, I'm not saying start punching people in the face. Let me pull back from that a little bit. But threatening them with legal action, okay? Threatening them with legal action and meaning it, okay? And rallying other school districts and other people to rally with you, okay? It will change. I will tell you another thing. I want to refer to a comment, if that's okay. Suzanne out in Colorado. Hi, Suzanne. She said, this is why we need school choice. Exactly. But the liberals won't let you do it. They want to outlaw homeschooling and homeschooling associations. I'm surprised they haven't gotten to the Catholic schools and other private schools either. But they know that they double tax you or they double bang you with that. They figure, all right, we're going to take your property tax for the public schools, and you can do whatever you want with your Catholic school, but you're going to have to foot that bill. We're not going to give you a tax credit for that. So that's why they're okay with the private schools. But the charter schools and any competition to the public school establishment, they are absolutely against. For our kids' sake, if we have to fight any battle, it's the battle to have competition when it comes to the public school system. There has to be competition.
You want to make a Democrat who is for this ridiculous educational agenda twitch, this is what you tell them. This is what you say. You see, many of these people live in fancy towns that pay ridiculous taxes. My wife was telling me about one of her friends from work. She just remodeled her house in Western New Jersey. She was paying $30,000 a year. Now she's paying $40,000 a year in taxes. You see, they're doing that because they buy into the public schools. Their public schools, they're still garbage, by the way, because they're teaching this nonsense, because Madison is a very affluent community. And that's nonsense. But all these schools, they basically pay a lot of money to, quote unquote, give their kids a good education. Yet the poor kids who can't afford that get garbage. So this is what you tell them. Oh, you're for that. You're for having public education. How about we pool all the money nationally? So you who pay $40,000 a year in taxes, and the guy who lives in Garfield who pays $6,000, we all pool it because it is about the children.
It's always about the children.
It's about the children. So we're going to pool it nationally.
Right.
And everyone's going to have an equal school, and all the kids are going to have a chance. The kids in Newark, the kids in Camden, and the kids in Hohokus and Alpine are all going to be equal. They'll start to be like,
No, we don't want to do that.
No, we can't do that.
Well, then why you keep voting for liberals?
Because you don't care about those kids.
No.
You care about your kids.
Right.
You don't care about the public education. You don't care that that kid in Washington, D.C., who happens to be poor, who has to send their kid to the public school, who gets basically no education, and the school is a prison. But you get to go to a good school. Why? Because you have money?
Right.
So let's even the playing field.
Right. You're always talking about...
It's all even, right?
Right.
It's all about
It's all about the kids. It's all about redistribution.
Let's redistribute.
Right.
No chance.
Not even a chance.
Because why? It affects you.
Right.
So you're full of crap.
You know who's going to save this topic? You know who's going to bring a lot of pressure to bear? And many of them are still in the Democrat Party, but they're really waking up as African Americans in the inner city, particularly women, single mothers who are who let's say made mistakes and the father's not with the family, but they're trying their best. Those women, and this has been shown in many stories over the last 10, 15, 20 years, particularly in New York, they support the charter schools. They support the charter schools because they know that if they send their young son to the public school, they have a very concrete fear as to how their child is going to turn out or how poorly they're going to be educated. And they put pressure on the public school unions in New York City, okay, to say, we want competition. I don't want to send my son to your broken down school or my daughter to your broken down school. I want to send my child to that charter school, and I want the state to back me up. You say you care about me. This is black women. I've read this, especially when I used to read the Post every day, which follows New York stories a lot, the New York Post, where black mothers are saying, you want to subject my child to this terrible education, but you say you care about me and my child, but you say then you're not giving me any choices. Well, I want that choice. I want that choice. And that's why they continually attack homeschools and charter schools, like I said, because they're direct competitors. Seton Hall Prep, okay, and St. Benedict's Prep are direct competitors because their attitude is, look at those jerk-off parents. We'll take their tax money and the property tax, and then they're still going to have to pay for their kids' education.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go broke. I'm not sending my kids to
which is what they bank on, but that's what they bank on.
I mean, in plain English.
Shouldn't you not get a tax credit?
Well,
Should you not get a tax credit?
In some states you can.
In New Jersey you don't.
You never get it in New Jersey, and you're getting garbage. You're getting kids that are getting forced to basically, not forced, LGBT garbage down their throats when they're 5. I mean, crap.
Right.
I mean, I don't even understand it. And yet we just keep pulling the lever. We keep pulling the lever. And like I said, they're hypocrites. Next time someone talks about that, watch them twitch. Watch them twitch.
Yeah, they'll visibly be twitching, all right.
I've seen it because I've actually said that to someone who lives in a very affluent community.
Mm-hmm.
They twitch. They talk about sanctuary cities. Here's another one you want people to twitch in those fancy towns. Talk about building an apartment building.
Low rent housing.
Oh, we
can't do that. My
Why?
house is worth $1 million.
Because
it's going to be worth $800,000.
You don't want your kids. You say you're for all people. You don't want your kids going to school with those kids.
I mean, how many liberals do you know in your
You're
life?
You're full of crap.
They live in the suburbs. If you told them they were going to build a homeless shelter in Livingston, New Jersey, they tell you, not in my town, you're not. And they're all liberal in Livingston.
They'll come up with every excuse. They're not going to say that, but when they shut their door, you know damn well they will.
That's right. That's right. Dan makes a good point, by the way. Bring it to a little Catholic discussion here. Subsidiarity, obviously an important word. So it's a very good word.
Explain what it is.
Subsidiarity, in a nutshell, where problems, all right, problems that come up in society,
they're handled at the smallest level.
It's better to be solved in the places where those problems exist. So, I mean, that's a crude example, but yes. Dan's point is that subsidiarity is broken by national education. Right, Dan? They don't want local control over education. What did they do back in the day to educate? I mean, was America all stupid? Did we produce nothing but stupid, uneducated people before the left came along and John Dewey and people like that rammed all this nonsense down our throats about nationalizing public education? No, there's incredibly intelligent people that came out of those small country schools, where you actually learned something and got some life skills and learned how to read, write, and do math. And the people in the community supported the teacher who was in the public, who in that case, a local public school, and she taught the kids. And yes, most of the time it was she taught the kids. That's subsidiarity. There are certain things that are best solved under solidarity, and then most things that occur in our society can be solved at the local level. That's a crude, like I said, definition of subsidiarity. And that was Dan's point. Subsidiarity is broken by national education. Okay, I could lead or support a neighborhood-based discussion of how we pay for education in our neighborhood, but the taxes, they take it all away from it. Right. You can't afford to, let's say, organize in your own area, Dan, because if you do, they'll say, fine, but we're still taking your property tax. That's something that we need to fight against. If we're supporting local education that we're paying for in a neighborhood or in a town, let's say, then we need to be able to have representatives in the state legislature to say, I get to deduct that expense off of my property tax. So if we're paying 10 grand a year in Bergen County and 80% of that goes to the education system, well, if I'm supporting a local school system with my neighbors, then I get to deduct that 8 grand. I'm not paying for somebody else's education. You don't have to pay for mine, my children's, but I'm not paying for yours. You take care of your business over there. We'll take care of ours over here. We'll see whose kids go to the Ivy League, too. We'll see whose kids excel in this country. I would dare say our kids will, because we have our heads on straight. We don't have our heads up our you-know-what, and that's the truth. So Dan made a good point. Subsidiarity is something that we should employ more of in this country. So anyway, you're at the front line with Joe Pasillo and Joe Rosanello, and we're aggravated. We're aggravated tonight. All right, a lot of stuff out there that's getting us aggravated. We're thankful that all of you have joined us. Where are we headed next, Joe?
We're going to go our last story of the evening, and we're going to Russia. Ooh. Because as far as what we covered last week, Alec Baldwin told us, they run everything. The Russians run everything.
Didn't you know that?
He did say that.
I didn't know. You know what? I didn't know that Russia was running my life until Alec Baldwin told me.
They killed Epstein.
Right. They killed Epstein.
They run everything.
Now, just for a second, just to lighten it up a little bit. What the hell does Epstein have to do with Putin and everything else? It's so ridiculous. They run everything.
Putin says no to gay marriage. Interesting.
He was already a bad guy. Now that makes him worse, I'm sure.
Russian Vladimir Putin said that the traditional definition of marriage as being defined between a man and a woman should be added to the Russian constitution, saying that under his leadership in Russia, they would not adopt the terms parent 1 and parent 2. Putin went on to state, as far as parent 1 and parent 2, I have already publicly stated, and I will repeat it once more, that as long as I am president, we will not have parent 1 and parent 2. We will have mama and papa. Even a murderer knows that. Even a murderer. He's a despot, and he gets that. It's so basic and so clear. We have been so fooled and so lied to. Our country is spinning out of control. If we do not stop it, it is finished. That's why we do the show, actually. That's one of the reasons why we do the show, to raise people's consciousness.
Right.
People just going along to get along. Oh, it's not going to affect me. It already is.
Yeah.
It's affecting everyone. It's affecting all our communities.
Mm-hmm. How's the saying go, Joe? The barbarians are at the gate. They're not 100 miles away or 200 miles away or 1,000 miles. The barbarians are at the gate. In fact, in many ways, they've already breached the wall. And they're here. They're in the schools now. They're in Hollywood now. They're in advertising now. They're in academia now. Stop saying to yourself you have no power. If we straighten out the culture in this country, we have to look to Putin. Honestly, we have to look to Putin to let us know what we already know. That mommy and daddy, not parent number 1 and parent number 2, mommy and daddy. Enlightened France doesn't have that, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, correct.
France says parent number 1, parent number 2. No, mommy and daddy. I'll take that one from Putin. Okay?
It's so sad.
It really is. They're here. They're right here. They're in our midst. And we allow them to just keep going. Why? Because they'll threaten to take your job. They bully you. They call you a hater. I love that one. As a Catholic, I will say, I love the fact that they call us haters because Christ said the servant is no greater than his master. If they hated you, remember they hated me first. At the end of the day, this is all anti-Christianity, which built Western civilization. Okay, they hate Western civilization because Western civilization was built on Christian principles. That's why they hate it. That's why they want it destroyed. And this is the way they do it. That we need to have Putin, a Russian despot, tell us that mommy and daddy's mommy and daddy, and I'm not allowing it on government forms and everything else. It's mommy and daddy. And France, the enlightened democracy, says parent number one and parent number two. And we allow it. We say, oh, it's okay. So, you just go along to get along. No, if you're sitting on the fence, you've made a decision. Okay? That is still a decision. You're not neutral. Okay? You're not neutral.
Something I said on the Crusade channel, I quoted, he's a philosophy professor at Boston College. His name is Peter Kraft. I recommend reading his books. He's a very smart man, and he's also a devout Catholic. He's also, like I said, an incredibly intelligent human being. This is what he said about relativism. Relativism means there's no absolute truth. We define, like when people say, she has her truth, that person believes in relativism, just to clarify that. So what he said is in history, there has never been, let me repeat this, never been a civilization that has embraced relativism and has survived. History.
Right.
So America, who has embraced relativism, based on all these stories that we talk about, that's
right.
Relativism. There's no moral absolute, right and wrong. You define it.
Right.
Three things are going to happen. One, we will be the one outlier that is the exception to the rule, that every civilization has failed and somehow we won't by some lucky stroke. Two, we will fall like all the rest. Or three, we will repent of our decisions and right the road.
That's it.
There it is. There's
it.
Your choices. They're in front of you. Relativism is here. Idea of right and wrong in an absolute form is thrown out.
And by the way, show some courage when people and we encourage you, that we're not accusing you. Have some courage when you hear people say things like, well, she's living her truth, or he's living his truth. Okay, confront that. As we said on last week's show, let's go on the offensive. What do you mean? I had this conversation, so I'm backing up what I said. And I don't like getting into conversations at work anymore. Okay, I really, what's the word? Eschew those conversations. I don't want to get in them. But then sometimes I just have it up to here. And somebody was trying to jab me because they were talking about abortion, and I was keeping my mouth shut. And they were saying, and they looked at me and said, you know, because abortion is the woman's truth. And she wants to say, okay, let's use your relativistic standards. Okay, her truth is she's going to have an abortion, and that's a-okay. My truth is it's a human life in the womb and should be protected. The objective truth is that if she goes through with that, you have a dead baby as a result. I said, can you define that as her truth or my truth, or is it just objective truth? You have a dead baby as a result. He walked away, not because I'm brilliant, because I'm not, but he couldn't defend that, because there is no his truth, her truth. That guy's truth is not my truth. There's objective truth. There's objective reality. Okay. We could squabble over other things, but we have to get this right. The moral law and the natural law are something that's accessible to all people because God writes it in our heart.
And this is something I have said. I do a lot of teaching within the Catholic Church. The natural law, what Joe just said, with regard to the teaching in your heart, it applies to you whether you believe it or not. You see, it's like gravity. You could say, I don't believe in gravity. Jump off the roof. When you crash to the floor
before you die,
do you believe in it now?
You'll believe in it.
Well, the natural law, when we go against it, we're free to, by the way, because we're born with free will, but there are consequences that are assigned to those choices. Whether you want them or not, you're getting the consequence to that decision. We're seeing the bad fruit in this country. We're seeing it. It's in our families. It's in our friends.
And we have to defend our family and our friends. Yes.
You know, it's time to right the ship.
or allow God to. Because I firmly believe,
all
Joe,
I have to say.
I firmly believe we're so far gone in certain ways. Only God's going to right the ship. What we have to do
It applies to you.
is bring them back in.
Whether you accept it, whether you release, you can't hide your head in the sand.
Well, if your kid comes home, if your 8-year-old boy comes home and says, "I think I'm a girl," okay, and you didn't raise your child properly, and then you want to blame the rest of society, of course, blame the Catholic Church, blame haters like Donald Trump, blame haters like Joe and Joe. Blame yourself when your kid comes home like that. And go look at yourself in the mirror. Really, when you go out there and say, "I'm letting my child live her truth." In the meantime, it's a boy. And she's going to be the best version of herself. You know, when you look in the mirror at night, you've destroyed your child's life. And it was your actions that did it. Your actions, the fact that you allowed other people, especially like we said earlier, in the school system, to do that to your child. You're to blame. Don't blame it. And when your kid commits suicide, because the suicide rate amongst people who suffer from these things is off the charts.
Because their transition doesn't solve their problem.
And when your little baby at 18 years old is lying on the slab because of decisions you made, you have yourself to blame. Don't blame us. We'll be praying for you and your child, but don't blame us. And that's the truth. I did want to comment on one thing. Dan made a good point, getting back to what we said earlier. He said, skip the Ivy League, start a family, solve someone else's problem with a product or a service, build a company, and put people to work. Dan, I said it before on the show, all right? When my wife starts saving for our child's education, okay, there's going to be a pot of money at the end that's going to be meant for their education. My child's going to have a choice, all right? And I'm going to have to decide with my wife whether or not we think our child is right to go to college. My kid turns around and she says, "You know what? I learned about construction. And I learned about, when I was in high school, I think I might want to start my own business." You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put him in business. I'll buy him all the books he wants so that he can educate himself, he or she, all right? And I'll start a business. Better use of that $200,000 than I got to give it to these elitists in the university system. I'd rather give my kid a choice, at least a choice.
And Dan said also, natural law. Dan, you should be on the show. You're great. Natural law is a reality.
Yes,
it is.
It is.
I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is the truth. You could deny there's the sun, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
It's real, and there are consequences, and we're seeing them. That's why we're here.
And we're going to continue to be here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Facebook Live every Sunday night. And please share our page, share our conversations. We want as many people, and please have these conversations. We're not leaders, Joe and I. We're simply reflecting what all you good people are saying out there. We just decided to sit in front of the computer last year and have these conversations because we think they're important. And maybe show a little balls, risk a little bit and get the truth out there. And we want to thank you all for supporting us. And please spread the word with your friends. Like our page on Facebook. Share the videos with your friends. Go on HolyFaith Media over on YouTube. Like Jonathan Ross's page up there in Canada. Jonathan produces our content and a whole lot of other content that you would find useful. Rules for Retrogrades, that's on the Crusade channel. But there's a lot of stuff on there. And think about subscribing to the Crusade channel. Mike Church, Rules for Retrograde, Rick Barrett, his whole lineup. Joe and Joe is on the Crusade channel now. Once a week, we have a 3-hour slot on the radio. We're on the radio, okay? And we're lighting it up on the Crusade channel. It's only $16 a month, but it's $16 a month. Very, very, very well spent.
And we don't get any of the money.
We get nothing from that.
Nothing.
And nor, by the way, do we want anything. If this is very successful down the road and we achieve some success in that area, that's great. If God wants to give that to us, that's great. We're showing up every week because the truth is the best currency we have. That is the best currency we have. That's what we're going to continue to do. So thank you all again for joining us. And remember, our conversation is your conversation. And that conversation, that's going on everywhere. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening.